So I noticed these images on the top communities section here on the sidebar. They are not actually rounded for some reason, and it's because the image component introduces some divs, and that can mess with the styling. So let's go back to the index page. So index.tsx, and actually right here where we have this image, I don't know why I wrapped it in this div and gave it the stylings when I could actually just give it to the image itself. So let's copy all these stylings and go inside the image and say class name equals and paste those in. And we don't need overflow hidden because this is an image and it's not going to have an overflow. And we don't have this margin right too, because you can't give margin to an image, a next image, because by default it has margin 0 and you can't override that. So let's remove this wrapping div and let's take a look at it. So save, let's go back. All right, that looks much better. So it's rounded now, and but the thing is that margin is gone. The easy solution for this is to just give it to the text next to it. So this link right here that has the /r/subreddit name, here we can just add margin left to save. And now that looks exactly how we want it to look. Cool. So now let's work on the submit page. So which would be, so if we go to funny, for example, okay, I need to be logged in. So let me log in. John 136. By the way, someone has already noticed in the comment sections that I've got a new keyboard. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if you think this keyboard is too loud. I'm not sure about it because it's a mechanical keyboard. I might still return it because I feel like it's really loud when I'm recording a video. But let me know in the comments, like if you mind it or not. All right, so if we go to create post, we get this page not found. So let's create this page right now. All right, let's go. So this will be inside of the /r/subreddit/submit, right? So we need to go inside that folder. So pages /r/sub, and inside of here, so inside sub, not identifier, do new file and call it submit.tsx. And here I'll do the usual _rfc, tab that, let me close this. And inside this div, actually this whole div will have a container class. So do class name container. And actually, let's give it flex, and let's give it some padding on the top like we did with the others, so pt5. And inside of here, we'll have the usual .w-160 for our main content, and then the sidebar next to it. And here, let's do the sidebar, so sidebar, and make sure to import that. And here, let's give it a sub of sub, which does not exist yet. So inside the create page, this will be a create for this subreddit. So we're going to fetch that subreddit and show information about it on the right as well. And this serves another purpose, which is if we do fetch that subreddit and that request fails, then we redirect to the homepage or redirect back because we can't post to a subreddit that does not exist. So let's actually fetch this before I carry on with anything else. So here is a const, do data and call it sub. And actually let's get the error as well. So go here, do comma error. And here we'll say use swr and import that. So this, we need to get the subname from the route query, from the route parameter. So let's go here and extract that. So let's say const destructure sub, and let's call it subname because we're going to use sub for the actual sub itself, and get that from router.query. We don't have a router, so let's say const router equals use router. Import that and call that as a function, and this should do the trick. And here we'll use that as a condition, so we'll say if subname exists, so we'll do a ternary, and we'll do backticks /subs/ and concatenate that subname. And of course, otherwise null, don't fetch anything. And we can give this a type of sub, and actually I forgot to import it, so import it from types. And here we'll do our check, so if error, then router.push, and we're just gonna go back to the home page. Now I'll do a head section here to change the title of the page. So here we'll say title, and the title will be submit to Reddit, because it's on Reddit, it's like this. Actually, let's import the head component. Inside of this W60 div, let's do a div with a class of padding for .bgwhite.rounded. And here let's do our title for the page. So we'll do header 1, so h1.mb-3.textlg to make it larger. And here we'll say submit to or submit a post to, and then we concatenate subname. Or maybe we can say to /r/that subname. And under this title, we're gonna have, so let's put our form here. So say form, and here actually it doesn't have an action, it has an onSubmit. So onSubmit, and this will be, let's just call it submit post and create it later. And here I'm gonna do a div.absolute. I'm gonna explain in a second why I did this. .margin bottom 2 and tab that over. And here we'll have the input for the title of the post. So we'll say input. I'm going to give it a couple of classes. So I'm going to give it width full, so w-full, and px3 to give it some padding on the right and left, py2 top and bottom, and let's give it some border, so border and border dash gray 300, and rounded, of course, everything is rounded in our app. And actually tab this, and here I'm going to say, let's go to the end of it and say focus and say outline none. I think there's a plugin that removes outline for all inputs called forms or something, but for now I'm okay with the focus outline none. And here we're gonna have a placeholder, so say placeholder. We're just gonna say title, and I'm gonna do something that the actual Reddit does, which is it limits the title to 300 characters, and it also shows you on the right a counter to how many characters you've used for this title that you are typing. So I'm going to do that. That's why I actually gave the absolute here, so I can put that next to it here and give it relative. Actually, saying that, I just realized I mixed them up. This should be relative, and the one inside should be absolute, so that we can position it relative to this. So inside of here, so we're going to create that in a second. But here inside the input, I'm going to give it max length and give it 300 so that we can limit it programmatically as well. So here we'll say value, and we'll call this title. We'll create this in a bit. And on change, we're gonna take the event and say set title to, oops, okay, I should have created it beforehand. Event.target.value. Close that, and let's go up here and say use state, and here call it title and start it with an empty string. Actually, let's import useState from React. Oops, I used the wrong suggestion. All right, there we go. We have useState. So let's go back down. So here our input is done. And under the input, let's put a div with a class, so absolute. And let's give it some margin on the bottom. Margin mb2.text. Let's give it text small, not text gray 500, so that it doesn't attract too much attention. And here we'll give it a class of select none because it's text, but we don't want it to be selected. We just want it to show. Tab this, and inside of this div, we're just gonna have title.trim to make sure that we remove the white spaces. .length, so this will be the length of the title, and we'll say over 300. Actually, over 300 needs to be outside. So I'll put a comment here, for example. An example would be if you're typing a title and it will show you like this. 15 over 300, so you can go up to 300. All right, let's create this submit post. So up here, say const submit post, and this will be an async function which takes an event of type form event, and then in the arrow function, of course, we're going to say event.prevent default. I'm going to check for the title because actually I forgot we're going to add the body, but the body is not important. The title is what tells us if we can send this post or not. The body can be null. So we're just going to do validation for the title. We're going to say if title.trim equals empty string, then return. Don't do anything. You could add some validation to show a message, but for now I'm just going to keep it as it is. So we'll say try catch, and inside the try we're going to say await axios.post to /posts, and this will have a title, which will be title.trim, and we're going to have a body as well. I'm going to create this in a second. I actually just forgot about it. So here we'll have our sub, because we need to pass it. So we're going to get this from subname, because if we have fetched sub here, that means subname is a valid subname. You could also do this if you want, sub.name, because we have access to that as well. So let's create the body. So here I'm going to do another state variable. So use state and call this body, and this starts with an empty string. Let's add the body input or text area actually. So under this div, let's add a text area. Oh, actually, it populates it with some stuff. Okay, I don't need any of this, so I'm just gonna remove all of them and give it a class name and give this width of full and padding 3 and border gray 300, rounded, and focus outline none. And actually, I just realized we need to give it focus border as well. We need to change the border to show an indication on the UI that we are typing here. So here, let's say border. So focus border gray 600, make it darker. So select this, copy it, and paste it up here. And apart from the classes, we're gonna have a value. So value, this is the body. Oops, actually this needs to be an expression. So body, like that. And the placeholder, this will say text, and between parentheses is gonna say optional, because it is. And let's give it some rows. So rows, let's give it 4. And under the text area, we're gonna have I'm gonna put this in a div. So this will be the submit button. So I'm gonna put it in a div with a class of text, with a class of justify end. So it goes to the right, tab that, and here we're gonna have a button with a class of blue and button, and give it some padding. So px3.py1, tab that, and this will say post, or maybe submit. Actually, let's give it the type submit to be explicit. So type submit, and also let's give it a disabled attribute. So disabled, and the condition will be if the title, so title dot trim equals empty. Or maybe here you can say title dot trim dot length equals 0, because here it makes more sense to use this syntax because it's about the length and it's not about if it's an empty string or not. All right, so save this and let's take a look at it. All right, if we refresh this, we should get that page. All right, we get a cannot read description of undefined. Okay, that's because we are showing the sidebar before we fetch the sub. So we can actually just add a condition here and say if sub, so sub and then show this entire tag, this sidebar tag component. Save it and let's take a look at it now. All right, there we go. So we get our sidebar and we get our title input, but our length indicator, title length indicator, is positioned underneath this, not correctly. So actually, let's see. All right, so if we type, it does actually change. And of course, if we put spaces, it doesn't change because it's trimming it. All right, so that's working properly. And as well, if we type something here, the button, the submit button becomes not disabled. All right, let's go back and see why that's not positioned correctly. So we have relative here and we have absolute here. Oh yeah, of course, because I didn't give it I didn't give it the coordinates where exactly it's going to be. I just gave it that it's absolute, and by default it goes to top 0 and left 0, which is right there. Okay, so let's give it, so we can't give these as classes because they need to be precise. We can just give them as an actual inline styling. So we'll say style, and inside the object we're going to have a top property, and here for top, let's say 10 pixels, and for right, let's do 10 pixels as well. I think you could just give numbers. Let's do 10 and 10. Let's do 10 like that and 10 like that. Save. All right, that looks good, but I think it's a bit leaning towards the top. So maybe let's give it 12 on the top. Save. All right, maybe 11. Okay. All right, that looks cool. It looks like it's centered in the middle. And if I type now, that changes and it shows us the length that we can go up to for our title. Lovely. Let's actually test if it's submitting the post. Let me actually double check the submit function. So we do prevent default and we check if the title is not empty, and then we send the post. Okay, that looks good. Well, actually, let's redirect after this. So we'll say router.push. And we're going to redirect to the subreddit, or actually we could redirect to the post itself. So what we could do is, let's say here const res equals all of this, and I think we return a type post. So let's say, so if we do have the type post, right? So we can already destructure data and call it post. So from this post, so we can redirect to, so router.push and do backticks /r/ and concatenate the sub.name, and then do /, and here we can concatenate the post.identifier. Actually, we can tell this that this will return a type of post and import that from types, And here we'll say, so post slash identifier slash and concatenate post dot slug. And here if we get an error, we're just gonna console log it, console log the error, save. And now let's open the DevTools. Let's go to network. All right, I'm just gonna remove everything. And here, post to funny. I'm just gonna say this is supposed to be funny. The body's not important, so I'm just gonna hit submit. Yay, there we go. So it submits perfect, so it submits correctly, and we get to that post. All right, so that's working as intended. All right, it looks like we're getting an error or a warning. You provide a value for the form of the onChange handler. Did we? Okay, we have an onChange here. And oh yeah, okay, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot in the text area to give an onChange here. So the onChange for the text area, we'll take the event and do set body, and it will set it to event.target.value. Save. Let's actually submit a post with a body so that we can test that's working as well. So another unfunny post. Sorry guys, I'm not naturally funny. I should just type some random stuff to save time, but whatever. There we go. All right, so the body got sent. That means it was being set in the state and it was sent to the server, and everything is working perfectly. All right, so we got some time, so maybe let's create the user page as well. So this will be when you click on this, and it's this thing right here. So the user page, basically what it does is it fetches all the posts that this user has posted and also the comments they have posted, and it shows all of them in this one page, and they are sorted by created at, so latest one comes first. So we need to write an API endpoint that fetches this data and then of course consume it and show it on this page. And of course all of this is public. So for this I'm going to create, actually let's go to our Explorer. I'm going to close these. Let's go to our server code. So source here, routes. I'm going to create a new file here. So it doesn't belong in the auth because it's not an authentication thing, but I'm going to create a new file, call it users.ts. And this will be anything related to users in, I guess, in a publicly accessible way. But for now, it's just going to have this one endpoint. All right, so let's do our usual handler. So hand, and here this will say get user posts, or not posts actually. This will be, let's call it submissions. Submissions. I think that's what they call it on Reddit. And before we do anything, let's create that route. So let's say const router. Oops. Const router equals router, and get that from express. And here we'll say router dot get slash. So this will be the username. So slash colon name, or maybe username rather. So colon username, and this will have get user. Get user submissions as a handler. And actually, let's use the user middleware so that we can know whether the user that we are logged in right now has liked or interacted with any of the submissions that this user has posted, even if it's ours. So let's import the middleware from our middleware, let's separate these, and actually let's import request and response as well. So import those. So inside of our try catch block, let's get this user first. So we'll say const user equals await user. So import the entity dot find one or fail, and the condition will be where username is request.params.username. I'm doing this like this because we're only going to need it here, so I'm just not going to assign it to a variable. But here it's important that we say select, because we don't want to select all the fields. Obviously we don't want to expose any information to the public about this user that we don't want to expose. So we're only going to select username, and maybe created at. Actually, not maybe, created at, because we're going to show on the right maybe some information about this user when they joined or something like that. So I'm going to fetch these separately, not to make it really complex. So I'm going to just fetch them in their separate queries. I'm talking about the posts and the comments that this user has submitted. So we're going to say const, let's start with posts, equals await, await. All right, I can't type await, guys. I think it's the new keyboard. Post.find, what do we find? We find the condition will be where user, and of course that we are here, that means this user exists, and we'll say relations, and let's get all the relations so we can get the comment count and the vote score. So we'll say comments, votes, and we might as well just add sub at this point. It's all one query anyway. So here, let's say order. Actually, I don't think this is important. Yeah, it's not important, because I wanted to order them by created at, but we're gonna fetch the comments as well and then combine them and order them then. So I'm gonna skip on this. So we just actually duplicate this, and this will be comments, and this will be await comments, comment.find, get the comment entity where user is this user, and the relations, we're just gonna fetch the post. I don't know if we're gonna use it, but I'm just gonna actually we are gonna use it because the comment needs to link to which post that this comment belongs to. So yeah, let's fetch the post relation as well. Now I'm gonna do that check where if a user is logged in, then we populate the user vote for these posts. So we're gonna say, actually for the comments as well, so we're gonna say if request.locals user, actually not request, the response. Here we'll say post.forEach post, then let's do post.set user vote, and we pass it response.locals.user, and duplicate this and do the same for comments. Oops, not caps, comments, and here say c.set user vote. So now that we have both, we need to combine them into one array. To be able to differentiate them on the client side, we need to add something that indicates what type this submission is. So I'm going to say post.forEach for each post. Actually, we can already concatenate them here. So what we're going to do, let's say let submissions equals, and this will be, actually let's give it a type. I don't want it to check the type, so we're just going to say any, and it's an array. So here it starts as an empty array. So here when we're going to loop through the posts and add them here. So for each post, we're going to say submissions.push, and we're going to push an object with a type of post like this. And also we're going to spread the post itself. Now the post itself has a lot of other data that relates to the model. So we need to spread p.to.json so that we can get just the data itself. And let's duplicate this and do the same for comments. So it's going to say comments dot for each. Let's replace this with a c, submissions.push type comment, and this will be c.to.json. Now one final thing that I want to do is I want to sort them by created at, and this is easy. So we're going to say submissions.sort, and our sort function will take an a and a b element, and then it's going to return if b.created@at is bigger than a.created@, then return 1, and otherwise if b.created@at is actually smaller than a.created@, return -1, otherwise return 0. I'm writing it in this long syntax so that it makes sense for you if you're not familiar with the sort function. So now we just return res.json, and let's return the user as well. So we'll do an object with the user and the submissions like that. If we get an error, we're just gonna console log the error for ourselves. Oops, console log error, and here we'll say return res.status 500.json, and this is the usual error, something went wrong. All right, save this. Let's create the page and just fetch the data and see what we get. So let's go to our Explorer. Let's go to client, source, pages. This will be /u/the username. So let's create a new folder here, call it u. And inside of u, we're going to create a new file with a dynamic route username. So username between square brackets .tsx. And here's do our underscore RFC, tab that, and change this maybe to user. And here, let's get our username from the router query. So we'll say const router equals use router. And here we'll say const username. Since we just have one, we can just say router.query.username. So here, let's get the data. So const data, let's call it user. Or actually, no, the data has the user and the submission. So let's just get it as data right now. So data and error, if there is one, equals use swr, and import that. Actually, let's give it a type of any, so it doesn't check anything. So here we'll say if username, then we're gonna get, so do backticks /users/username. Actually, as I'm typing this, I realized we didn't add the routes to our server. So let's go to server.ts. in our server code. And right here where we have all these routes, we can just duplicate one of these. So app.use, actually let's import them first. So duplicate one of these imports, and here let's call this user routes, and this will be from routes/users that we created earlier. And let's take those user routes and paste them here, and this will be /API/users. Save this, and let's go back to username.tsx. So here this will be /users/ and do $ curly brace username, and of course otherwise no, don't fetch anything. Now if we get an error, we're simply gonna say router.push homepage. Now let's for now let's just check if data, then let's just console log data and see what we got. So save this, let's go back to Chrome. Now we have John. Let's actually check where the user doesn't exist, so I'm just gonna put some gibberish, hit enter. All right, so it didn't redirect us, and why is that? Let's check the request. Okay, redirected us, but the homepage looks very strange, no posts. Why is that? Okay, error connection refused. Let me check the console. Okay. Oh, okay. So we didn't export the router, my bad. So let's go to users here. Let's export default router. All right, so now that should not happen. Cool, we get our homepage is working fine. Now if I go to, so posted by John, if I click here. All right, so we go to John. All right, so I wanted to test where the user doesn't exist. So let's go to a gibberish page. All right, so that it redirects us to the home page. Now, if I go to John, there we go. Let's go to the console. We get our user and submissions. Okay, is this error on this page? No, it's not. We'll fix it later. All right, so we get user and we get submissions. Nice. So we get our user, and there you go. We get just the username and the created at and the submissions. And there we go, we get this post, which is the latest post that we just posted earlier, the not naturally funny post, and then next to it, a comment that was submitted before that, and then so on. Nice. Now let's use these to show them on this page. So let's go back and actually close this. We don't need this users routes page anymore, or file anymore. So let's do a fragment. So opening tag, closing tag. Oh, perfect, there's a snippet for it. Nice. All right, so let's do our head element and import that. So inside of the head, we're gonna have a title. I don't know why this is grayed out. I need to surround it with parentheses. Yeah. So the title is, let's check if we have a user first. So we'll say data. Actually, if we have data first. So if we have data, then we're gonna have a user for sure. We're gonna say data.user.username. And to show anything, we're just going to check first if we have data. So we're going to say data, and then if we do have data, we're going to show the content. So let's put everything in a container. So .container.flex and .pt5, tab that. And here we're going to have our usual .w-160. And here we're going to have the submissions. So we'll loop through them. So we'll say data. So we know we have data, so we don't have to add a question mark. So we'll say data.submissions, .map, and for each submission, we're going to return something. Actually, let's give this an explicit type any, and here we'll check. So if, actually let's make these curly braces here and here as well. So we're going to check if the submission, so if submission.type equals post, then we're going to show this submission in a format that looks like a post, which we already have a component for, which is the post card. So we can just say if that's a post, we're going to return an element post card with a key of submission. So we know this is a post, so it's going to have an identifier. So I mean, even comments have identifiers, but whatever. And the post will be the submission itself, so submission like that. Actually, maybe it will make more sense if we did something like this. So if the submission type is a post, we could just do const post equals submission, and then just here replace submission with post, because it looks like it makes more sense. Sometimes more code is better for readability. And we can also like give this a type here of post. Else, we know we only have 2 use cases, so we don't need to check if submission type equals comment. If it's not post, it is comment. So we can say const comment of type comment equals submission, and here we'll return a div. Actually, let's give it a key comment.identifier. Oops. Wait, we don't have an identifier. All right, let me check the types. Okay, we do have an identifier here. Oh, okay. There is a default type comment, but we need to import our own comment from our types. Okay, so here comment.identifier. Okay, let me make sure it's imported. Okay, for some reason it didn't import it, so let's say comment. And here now we can have the identifier. Sweet. And let's give this some classes. Oops, class name equals, give it flex, and some margin on the top and bottom, so my-4 and bg-white and rounded. Very similar to the postcard. So inside this div, actually on the left, I want to show a comment icon that indicates that this is a comment. So I'm going to put this in a div similar to the vote div for the postcard. So this will have a flex shrink 0 and a width of 10 and a padding on the top and bottom of 4, so py4, and text center and rounded left, so rounded -l. Tab that, and inside of here we're going to have an icon with a class name of fas.fa-comment-alt, and also fa-access to make it small, and also let's give it some margin on the right, MR1, and give it text gray 500. Tab that, and now next to it we're gonna have the actual content of the comment. So we're gonna have a div of class with the full and padding 2. Tab that, and here we'll have a paragraph that contains all the metadata, and this will have a class of margin bottom 2 and text excess and text gray 500. Tab that, and here we'll have, the first thing is going to be the user, and this will be a link to the user. So let's give it href of an expression. Actually, let's import link from next. So href, let's go back here. Inside the backticks, this will be /u/ and this will be inside the comment object. So comment.username. It's the same as our username, but because inside the comment here, let's just use comment.username. Close the link off. Here we'll have our anchor tag. So do a.text blue. Oops, actually this is a dash blue 500 and cursor pointer. Tab that. I'm gonna add, actually remove the href, and here at the end I'm gonna add a hover underline, and inside of here we'll have comment.username. I'm going to save this just to see if it formats it better. Yeah, so we can have a better look at it. All right, so we have this link, and next to it, I'm going to add a span, and it will say, this is the username. And then next to it, it's going to say username, and it will say, so space, commented, on, space, and then we're going to have the post title next to it. So I'm actually just going to copy this and paste this here. So this will be a link, but instead of the username, it's going to be to actually remove all of this, to be to comment.post.title, or actually no, URL, and remove these backticks and this thing. Actually, post does not exist on type comment, so let's go to the comment type and add post, and this is optional, and this is of type post. All right, now it's not going to complain here. Cool. And inside of here, actually this is not going to have any of these stylings. It's just going to be plain text and with hover underline. Or actually no, I was wrong. It's not going to have cursor pointer because it's a link. So add cursor pointer, and this will be comment.post.title. And next to it, actually let's go get the that dot symbol from the postcard. So scroll down, it should be, yeah, this here. Actually, it's going to be the exact same span, so just grab this whole span tag and paste it here. So next to this dot, we're going to have the subreddit itself, a link to the subreddit. So I'm just going to actually copy that link and paste it here. So the href now is going to be backticks /r/ and then do $sign curly brace comment.sub, or actually no, comment.post.subname. Close the backticks and close the curly braces. And here it's going to have the same classes, but I'm going to say text black, and this will be /r/ and then it's going to have comment.post.subname. And now let's put the comment itself. So actually under this paragraph, it's going to be right under it, so not next to it. So we're going to have a horizontal ruler, and then under it, it's going to have a paragraph with a comment.body content inside of it. All right, save. Okay, let's take a look at this. All right, so we get our posts, which are just the postcard that we created before, and we get our comments as well. And they have this icon that indicates that this is a comment. And obviously we have all of this that tells us some metadata about it. Actually, I just realized that this is a link and this is a link. So it's a bit inconsistent in how it shows us the links. So maybe we can give this the same styling, the same styling as this, as a link to the subreddit, the same as a link to a user page. So, or actually no, now that I think about it, this shouldn't be a link because we're already in that page. It doesn't make sense to link it because obviously we're just showing comments by this user. So what we can do, we can just, up here where we have the username, we can just concatenate it without it being a link. So we could just remove that and just do this, save. Yeah, it's just gonna say John commented on this post. Maybe let's make this a bit bold. So the title of the post here, let's say text semi-bold, or actually no, font semi-bold, save that. Yeah, that looks better. That looks like we know that that's a link. And then we have the comment itself underneath, so that's okay. And maybe this side section as well needs to have this gray background. Let me check here. Yeah, I don't know why I added this margin. Yeah, that margin I think is meaningless. So let's remove that margin from the icon. So it's right here. So remove this margin left or margin right. And also give that section, okay, what does this have? What is this BG gray? Yeah, BG gray 200. So let's give this right here, BG gray 200. And then this, maybe this needs to be maybe darker. So 600, save. All right, that looks, maybe it's a bit too dark. Let's, I think 500 was okay. As long as you can see it there. Yeah, or maybe even 400. 400, save. Okay, 400 is too light. Okay, 500 is fine. All right, I'm gonna settle on that. Cool. Okay, so that looks much better. It's more consistent with the postcard. All right, let's create the sidebar to show some info about the user. It's not gonna be a lot of info, just the username and when they joined. So let's go down. So this div is the, no, actually not this one. Outside, yeah, this div, this 160 div is the main content, and next to it we're gonna have our -w80 or w-80. So let's say w.w-80. This will be the sidebar .ml-6. Give it some margin between it and the main content. Tab that, and here we're gonna have .bg bg white inside of it and rounded. And I'm actually gonna add an image to show that this is the user image, even though we don't have user images, but I showed you how to do upload for posts. You can do the, or for subs rather. So you can do the same for users. But for now, I'm just going to put like a placeholder. Let's search for Gravatar placeholder again. And let's go, yeah, let's get this one. So copy the image address, go back. Actually, I'm going to put this in a separate div for the user image. I'm going to give it BG blue 500. And also give it a rounded top so that it doesn't become not sharp on the top and mess with the styling of the containing div. So rounded T, tab that. And here we're gonna have, I'm just gonna put this as an image tag, paste that link, and the alternative maybe we'll say user profile. And let's give it some classes, to give it some styling. So let's give it a width of 16 and a height of 16. And give it MX auto so it's centered, and border 2, and we'll give it some border white, and let's give it rounded full so it's circular, and save. Let's take a look at it. All right, refresh. Okay, so there we go, we get this user fake image. Let's give actually the div some padding so that it's not right next to the borders. So here, where it just disappeared. Oh, I scrolled. So here, where it says rounded T here, let's give it some padding. So P-3, save that. All right, that looks better. Okay, let's put another div here with the rest of the content. So we'll say P-3 as well. We can't give P3 to the wrapping div because the edges will be white and not blue. So we have to give them separately. So here we'll have, actually let's put this as the header one because we don't have a header one for this page. And here let's give it some styling. So give it some margin on the bottom. So MB-4 and text XL to make it bigger, and text center to center it. And here we'll say data.user.username. And let's put a horizontal ruler here, so HR. And here let's put a paragraph. Actually, let's give it some classes as well. Class name. Just give it text. Actually, we could just give text center to the wrapping div, I think. Yeah, just give it to the wrapping div. Yeah, so we don't have to give stylings to this. And here we can just say, actually, let's say joined and do an expression and say day.js, import that and give it data.user.created@, say .format. And let's just say maybe the name of the month, which is I think triple M, and then quadruple Y to get the year, and save this. Actually close the curly braces and save. All right, let's look at that. Okay, so we get John. Maybe there's too much margin here. There's too little margin here. So let's, well, we have a user, maybe just MB-3. And here we need to give this a margin. So class name, and give it maybe margin on the top and bottom of 3. Save. Okay, that looks like there's too much margin on the bottom. So maybe just on the top. So MT3. Save. Yeah, that looks cool. All right, so that's it for this one. Please make sure to like the video and of course subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.